Let's get this show on the road.
Mr. Knox, listen to me very carefully. We have your niece. Somewhere in this stadium is Dmitry Belov. If he is not found within 90 minutes...
Final Score arrives as a tightly wound action thriller that wears its intentions clearly on its sleeve. It is a film built around pressure, time, and physical presence, a story that unfolds almost entirely within the confines of a football stadium, while tens of thousands of spectators remain largely unaware that catastrophe is being engineered around them. From its opening moments, the film establishes a sense of unfinished business and moral reckoning, signaling that this is not simply about spectacle, but about consequences that refuse to stay buried. The tagline about scores that will never be settled is not just a catchy line. It is the emotional engine that drives the narrative forward, framing every punch, every decision, and every sacrifice as part of a larger reckoning. At the center of the story is Dave Bautista's Michael Knox, a former soldier whose imposing physicality is used not merely as visual shorthand for toughness, but as a lived-in quality shaped by trauma and responsibility. Knox is introduced not as a superhero or an invincible action archetype, but as a man weighed down by past failures, particularly the loss of comrades and the lingering guilt that follows him into civilian life. His relationship with his deceased friend's daughter gives him an immediate emotional anchor, grounding the film's escalating chaos in something personal and human. This choice is crucial because it allows the film to justify its increasingly extreme situations without drifting into hollow excess. Knox is not fighting for abstract heroism, he is fighting to keep a promise and to prevent history from repeating itself. The setting of the stadium is used with surprising economy and intelligence. Rather than treating it as a generic large space, the film explores its inner anatomy, service corridors, control rooms, upper tiers, and shadowed maintenance areas that most fans never see. This creates a layered sense of geography that helps the tension feel earned rather than arbitrary. Each location has a function, and each function becomes a potential weapon or liability as the plot tightens. The crowd itself becomes an ever-present reminder of what is at stake, an anonymous mass of lives that could be lost if even one misstep occurs. The contrast between the roaring, celebratory energy of the match and the silent, methodical planning of the antagonists sharpens the film's sense of dread. Pierce Brosnan's antagonist is presented with a cool, calculating menace that avoids caricature. Rather than relying on exaggerated cruelty, the performance leans into controlled anger and ideological certainty. His character is driven by a sense of injustice tied to political betrayal and personal loss, positioning him as someone who sees himself not as a villain, but as an avenger correcting a moral imbalance. This perspective is critical to the film's depth. The conflict is not framed as good versus evil in simplistic terms, but as a collision between two men shaped by violence, each responding differently to the scars they leave behind. Brosnan's restrained delivery and composed presence make his threats feel more dangerous because they are rooted in conviction rather than impulse. Ray Stevenson's role adds another layer to the antagonist's side, providing a more volatile, physical counterpoint to Brosnan's controlled intensity. Where one embodies ideological resolve, the other represents raw force and unpredictability. This dynamic within the antagonist group prevents them from feeling monolithic and introduces internal tensions that subtly influence the progression of the plot. Their interactions suggest a hierarchy built on necessity rather than trust, hinting that even among those orchestrating the chaos, unity is fragile and conditional. As the story unfolds, the film carefully escalates its stakes. Initial disruptions and isolated confrontations gradually reveal a much larger plan, one that ties personal vendettas to mass casualties. The pacing is deliberate, allowing moments of quiet dread to breathe before erupting into bursts of violence. This rhythm mirrors Knox's own experience as he moves from cautious observation to full-scale resistance. The action sequences emphasize physicality over flashy choreography, highlighting Bautista's size and strength while also acknowledging his vulnerability. He gets hurt, he struggles, and each fight carries a sense of cost that accumulates over time. The film's thematic core revolves around responsibility and the impossibility of escaping one's past. Knox's military background is not treated as a badge of honor alone, but as a source of internal conflict. His skills are useful, even necessary, but they are also reminders of the life he has tried to leave behind. The antagonists, meanwhile, are similarly haunted, their actions framed as attempts to force the world to acknowledge wounds that were ignored or concealed. This parallel structure gives the narrative a moral complexity that elevates it above standard action fare, even when it leans into familiar genre beats. Midway through the film, the sense of containment becomes more pronounced. Time pressure intensifies, communication lines fracture, and the margin for error shrinks to almost nothing. The stadium transforms from a backdrop into a ticking mechanism, each system interconnected and vulnerable. The film uses this interconnectedness to heighten suspense, as small decisions ripple outward with potentially catastrophic consequences. Knox's improvisational problem-solving underscores his adaptability, but also reinforces the idea that there are no perfect solutions, only choices that minimize harm. The emotional stakes are repeatedly reinforced through Knox's bond with the young girl under his care. Her presence humanizes the danger and serves as a constant reminder of why he cannot afford to fail. Their interactions are brief but effective, avoiding sentimentality while still providing emotional clarity. This relationship also challenges Knox to balance his instincts for violence with the need for protection, forcing him to navigate situations where brute force alone is not enough. In the latter half of the discussion, the film's narrative momentum accelerates toward confrontation and resolution. As plans unravel and alliances strain, the story narrows its focus to the inevitability of collision between protagonist and antagonist. The stadium, once a symbol of collective joy and communal identity, becomes a battleground where personal histories and political grievances intersect. The film does not shy away from the consequences of this collision, allowing moments of loss and sacrifice to land with weight rather than brushing them aside for convenience. The climax is constructed not merely as a test of physical endurance, but as a moral reckoning. Knox is forced to confront the limits of his ability to save everyone, a realization that underscores the film's central assertion that some scores can never truly be settled. Victory, such as it is, comes with compromise and lingering cost. This refusal to offer a perfectly clean resolution reinforces the film's thematic integrity, aligning its ending with the emotional truths it has been exploring from the beginning. Visually, the film maintains a grounded aesthetic that favors clarity over excess. The camera work prioritizes spatial awareness, ensuring that the audience understands where characters are in relation to one another and to the larger environment. This clarity enhances the tension, as viewers can anticipate potential dangers and feel the narrowing of options alongside the characters. The sound design plays a crucial role as well, juxtaposing the roar of the crowd with the muted, claustrophobic sounds of the stadium's interior spaces, creating a constant auditory reminder of the thin barrier between normalcy and disaster. The performances collectively anchor the film's ambitions. Bautista continues to demonstrate his ability to carry a leading role that requires both physical dominance and emotional restraint. His portrayal of Knox is defined by controlled intensity rather than overt bravado, a choice that suits the film's grounded tone. Brosnan's antagonist benefits from the actor's natural charisma, which lends credibility to his ideological fervor and prevents the character from slipping into cartoonish villainy. Stevenson's presence adds texture and unpredictability, rounding out a trio of performances that give the film its dramatic spine. Final Score ultimately positions itself as a meditation on violence and accountability wrapped in the framework of a high-stakes action thriller. It understands the pleasures of the genre and delivers them with competence and conviction, but it also strives to interrogate the costs that accompany those pleasures. By situating its conflict within a space associated with unity and entertainment, the film underscores the fragility of societal order and the ease with which it can be disrupted by unresolved grievances. The stadium becomes a microcosm of a world where personal pain, political manipulation, and the desire for retribution collide. In reflecting on the film as a whole, what lingers is not just the spectacle of its action sequences, but the persistence of its underlying questions. Can violence ever truly balance the scales of injustice, or does it merely create new debts that will demand repayment in the future? Is it possible to honor the past without being consumed by it? Through its characters and their choices, the film suggests that while some conflicts can be contained or delayed, they rarely disappear entirely. The score may be settled in a technical sense, the immediate threat neutralized, but the emotional and moral reverberations continue long after the final whistle. This sustained focus on consequence is what gives Final Score its distinct identity within the crowded field of action cinema. It is a film that respects its audience's appetite for tension and adrenaline, while also inviting them to consider the deeper implications of its story. By the time the narrative reaches its conclusion, the viewer is left not with a sense of triumphant closure, but with a quieter, more unsettling awareness of the costs paid by those who step into the line of fire. In that sense, the film succeeds in transforming a contained, time-bound crisis into a broader reflection on the nature of conflict itself, ensuring that its impact resonates beyond the confines of the stadium where it unfolds.